What if I told you that the way you read one of the most well-known Bible verses is completely wrong?
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
By the end of this video, you're gonna have a whole different perspective on Psalm 23.
He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters.
Because what if, when David wrote about green pastures, he was actually talking about this?
So I have this picture in my house of this field with knee-high grass for as far as the eye can see and this big oak tree right in the middle. And that's the picture that I had whenever I read Psalm 23, especially that line about green pastures. Now, I don't know where you're watching this video from, and I don't know what green pastures means to you, but for David, who wrote the Psalm, this was his image of green pastures.
Psalm 23 has always been one of my favorites. It's a beautiful picture of who God is and who He wants to be to us. But it wasn't until I came here to Israel that I saw that there's so much more depth and meaning than I ever realized. And maybe for you, there's more to it than you understand right now, even if you've been reading it your whole life.
So this is a tuft of grass growing in the desert. See, what happens is at night, warm air from the Mediterranean blows across the desert, and when that warm, humid air hits the side of a hill or the side of a rock, a tuft of grass like this will pop up overnight. Now, in this sort of green pasture, the sheep has just enough for one mouthful. Then the sheep has to look to its shepherd to say, where's the next mouthful? And then it looks for the next mouthful, the next mouthful, and the next mouthful. In the green pastures that David wrote about, the sheep rely completely on their shepherd.
If you're anything like me, you'd rather imagine a green pasture with knee-high grass as far as the eye can see. But I'm afraid that in that kind of green pasture, we would have no need for a shepherd. In a culture that tells us to value our independence, God is calling us to be dependent on Him, trusting our shepherd to lead us to every mouthful.
So we're doing all this talk about sheep and shepherds, but where are all the sheep? Even just a few verses from this well-known psalm, we can see that if we read it with a Western perspective, we miss some of the depth and some of the details. These verses from Psalm 23 remind us that our dependency is to be on God, not our career, not our retirement, not our relationship status, not the number of likes we get on Instagram. If the Lord really is our shepherd, then we need to rely on Him for every minute of every hour of every day. And when we do that, He will lead us onto the right paths. The Hebrew word for paths used in Psalm 23 is the same as the word used to describe someone walking around in circles. Now, when a shepherd needs to get their sheep down from a hill in the desert, they can't just let the sheep run straight down or they'll get injured because the hill is so steep. So instead, they lead the sheep around the mountain in circles. Over the years, the sheep have worn these paths into the side of most hills. This is what the Bible is referring to when it speaks of paths of righteousness. This is how the shepherd of Psalm 23 gets the sheep safely down the mountain.
So many times when we think of paths of righteousness, we think of an obvious path that we would know to stay on. And yet, don't our lives often feel more like this? Lots of different paths, lots of different options and choices. It can be difficult to know what way is the right way to go. And maybe today, you're wondering the same thing. What's the right step for your life? And that's exactly why we need a shepherd to lead us on the right path.
If you want to find out more about Psalm 23, make sure you click on the link right up here to check out the rest of our series. If this video was helpful, make sure you give it a thumbs up, share this video and comment on it if you liked it, and make sure you subscribe to our channel so that you never miss an episode of IsraelU.